Welcome to another episode of the Peak Potential Success Show. My name is Fong. I'm an entrepreneur, business strategist, real estate investor, speaker, also best-selling author, and every single day I help others unlock potentials and guide them to succeed. Today on the show, we have another fascinating guest, comes highly recommended by others. And on this show, we interview some of the biggest celebrities, multimillionaires, business CEOs, entrepreneurs, real estate investors, speakers, artists, and performers to find out how they're able to become successful, how they overcome challenges and adversity, and of course, their keys to success. And this person definitely could share some tips and advice on that because she's really good at what she does. In the real estate space, she knows it all. She has over 15 plus years of experience in that space, managing her own deals, renovations, and also projects. But before that, when she first started, she got right down to it, doing renovations herself, doing all that stuff herself, because before you want to delegate stuff to other people, you have to really fully immerse yourself into that project, into that work, so that you can actually know what's going to happen, what you're going to be passing off to. And she's somebody who definitely knows what she's talking about and what happens during the real estate stuff and all that renovations. But another reason why she's so successful in real estate is probably because of the 25 plus years of experience she has in the marketing space and advertising space as a creative director for over some of the biggest companies out there, Fortune 500 companies. So she comes with a really high, unique set of problem-solving skills and also creative solution skills. Tenacity, integrity, levity, creativity, all the idiots that you could think of, she is, because that is something she truly believes is important for her personal brand. So please welcome managing partner of Rev Property Partners, real estate investor, speaker, Ms. CARLIN GUARNERI.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me here, Fong. That was
Hey,
quite the introduction. I appreciate it.
thanks for being here. Always enjoy talking to people in real estate because that is a space that I'm very interested in. And also, thank you for your time. I'm very excited for this interview because lots of people have go, hey, you got to interview CARLIN because she's really good at what she does. Some people I talk to who are in real estate goes, you still have to talk to CARLIN because she knows what she's talking about. So share with us that journey. How come you're this person that everybody goes, hey, you got to talk to CARLIN?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think it has to do with the charisma and transparency, honestly. I think when you fundamentally at your core, what kind of person you are in one thing is what kind of person you are in everything. And a little bit about my journey is, I just anything that I put my mind to, I really try to excel and push myself to be the best that I can for myself. Yes, there's a competitive nature with others, but it's more so the competition you have in with yourself. So
So how
my
did
journey
you start?
began. Oh, well, let me tell you. So my journey began. Somebody actually handed me the book Rich Dad Poor Dad right after college. And I came from a blue collar background where everybody worked 9 to 5. I didn't know there was this world of investing or other ways to get in. And it really just like blew my mind that there was another opportunity. So I really dove, headfirst into learning as much as I could. And, as we all sometimes do, we have our own path. And I became a little analysis paralysis before I pulled the trigger, just trying to get too much information. But that was just kind of my start. And, the journey's been unique and undulating since. And it's been very satisfying. And I'm so glad that I am here where I am.
So right after college, somebody gave you this book, but right after college, you also went into the advertising and marketing space and working in there for many years. So did you kind of dabble here and there, start reading here and there about real estate from that point forward, or did you kind of put it aside for many years before you go, wait a minute, there's this real estate thing that I kind of read back in right after college?
A little of both, Fong, a little bit of both. Again, coming from that background, it's you study hard, you go to school, you do your career, then you eventually retire. So I kind of was still in that mindset because I think I was just this was so intangible for me, a world where I can invest in myself and invest in other opportunities, but I don't have to work for somebody 9 to 5. And I really enjoyed my career. It was fantastic and a lot of fun. It's just, there's always something more. So yes, I took in as much information as I could. I went to as many meetings as I could. I would, after work, I would go, study, and there was a lot of times I remember maybe I was sacrificing certain social situations to make sure that I, could be present and try to do the best I can and perform well. So yeah, I kind of paralleled my career path in real estate as far as, purchasing my properties and doing that, after hours or before hours as much as I could.
Mm. Now, during that period of time, like how long did it take you from reading the book to getting your first deal, and how was that first deal like? How did you feel? What did it look like? Were you sweating bullets?
Yeah, it was about let's see, about 5, 6 years until I finally got my first deal. It was right in the peak of our 2007 lovely before the crash and everything. But I was sweating bullets, but I also had support around me. I kind of put it together myself and crafted it without using an agent. And I got the property, and I think it was a little bit of I should have, in retrospect, been a little more concerned because it's an older home, but naivety. When you go into it, it needed a lot of like had deferred maintenance, and I had tenants that were existing that I inherited, so there were some challenges around that as well. But what really was like the most exciting part about is that when I finally set the goal, I was like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm going to buy a 3 family in this price range that's going to cash flow this amount in 6 months. When I put all that criteria into place, then the ball really started rolling and everything kind of fit into place. And I did achieve that goal. And that was really what was the most successful and, satisfying for me.
Wow. When I first read that Rich Dad Poor Dad book, I was like, wow, this is amazing. How come nobody taught me this? I took it to my parents, and my parents goes, oh yeah, reread this book like 3 years ago. I'm like, hello. And how come you didn't say anything? And they're, oh, it's just common sense. I'm like, okay, how come you're not doing anything about it? So anyway, yeah, that's how I got started reading that book, and really going, wow, why are we not doing more of this kind of stuff? And then bought my first deal within about 2007, 2008 time too. Mine was a pre-built thing, so I started off really easy. I didn't jump into renovations, unlike yourself. For someone who's in renovations a lot, and for instance, I've done a few myself, you must have some horror stories that people go, okay, that's why I'm not going into real estate. Now, would you be able to share some of that, not to scare people away, but as a humorous story for people to go, wow, that's entertaining. Maybe I'll have stories like this that I could share in the future.
An entertaining one? The one that just jumps right to my mind is, I had mentioned that I did inherit some tenants, and I was shopping for supplies to renovate one of the units. So I ended up moving into one of the apartments, so house hacking on my first property. And I was at the Home Depot, and I remember it clear as day. I have all the supplies, and I got a phone call. You need to get back here right now. Your second floor tenants just fell out the window. So I was like, what? Did I hear that correctly? So yeah, so it was a little bit of a rough go on the first one with as far as like tenant management and stuff. And due to a minor involved, I can't really release too much information. There was a child involved with the incident, but ended up turned out with a big investigation, the street being closed down. I had a really delicate situation because I did live in the same property at the same time and not really knowing what was going on and why this situation had happened. Fortunately, everybody was okay. But yeah, I think one of the biggest factors with real estate is people, right? A first and a last name. There's always going to be challenges. And when you approach it as like people business and you build that rapport and relationship ahead of time, and you just kind of make it not, a professional, also friendly atmosphere, you can kind of get through a lot of that clutter.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that you were living in the same property as the tenants. Now that requires some really unique skill set when it comes to speaking and building a relationship and being able to live with somebody who is actually renting from you. I know a lot of my clients who wants to get into real estate are considering, hey, maybe I'll rent out the basement, maybe I'll rent out the main floor and I'll live in the same place. But what are some of the things that you went through or that you put into place to make sure that's going to be a happy median so that that person can rent there when you're actually living there?
Yeah, I think it's just setting boundaries. One of the things that I would say is, hey, I live here the same as you live here. If there's an issue, if it's an emergency, that's one thing, feel free to reach out. But if it's something, just shoot me an email or a text or whatever, depending on what time of decades we're talking now. Texting back then wasn't. But, at the same way, respect my space, the same way I'd respect yours. I'm not going to come up to your apartment and just start knocking on the door and bug you about something. So, I think you just, like I said, you have that kind of transparent conversation and you establish that boundary. But the same, as well, like the other benefit of being there is that you do get to see hands-on kind of how everything operates. And like I said, jumping into stuff and understanding it is a good way to, set yourself up for success for when you do delegate to other people. So that was also another bonus of doing that.
Now, as you move on and you build like your empire in real estate, looking back, for anybody who wants to start in real estate now, is that still the best way to do it, or is that the easiest way for people to do it? Do you recommend it?
Yeah, I recommend it. I think it depends on the person and what risk tolerance that they have, because there is risk in everything, but it's calculated. So I think you can potentially do that. You can potentially rent out a space like I do midterm rentals. You can rent out an extra spare room that you have to potentially travel nurses or something, and then you can get a feel for how that might work in this short term or Airbnb. It's a little different. And then if you feel that property management and that type of strategy is right for you, then go for it. I mean, if you have the flexibility and ability to move into a multifamily, for instance, just for a year or two while you rent it out and get it up and running, go for it.
Mhm.
Some other people are in different scenarios, though, that they might need a different approach. So it's
Mhm.
really, different strokes for different folks.
Now, as you look back during a period of time where you're still working as the creative director in marketing and advertising, and then also on the side, you're building this empire on real estate, what are some things that you would have either changed or tweaked so that it would have worked better?
Hmm. I don't know that I would really. It's tough to say because like our journey is what brings us to where we are, and
Mhm.
I think we all have stories where we you know kind of find challenges throughout, but maybe I would have kind of gone a little bit harder and been a little less timid, a little more confident in myself and my abilities, and just, while you're young, just do it quicker.
Mhm.
I think like I said, I had alluded to a little, I have a little bit of a analysis paralysis that was happening. And I didn't, there wasn't as much support then as there is now either as well. Like finding, mentors and coaches is a little more challenging back in those days, as I'm sure you were aware. So I think kind of aligning yourself with the right people and just kind of going at it while you're young, while
Mhm.
you can, is what I would probably would have done a little different.
Now, you mentioned analysis by paralysis. That's usually a term that's slapped on people who have a left-minded mindset. For somebody who's in real estate, you need a lot of number crunching, lots of analytical abilities and all that kind of stuff. But you're also in the marketing space, advertising space that also requires the right mind. How do you feed both minds? How did you find that balance to be able to be both?
Yeah, it's funny because one of our coaches mentions you're either left-minded or you're left brain or you're right brain. You're not both. Meanwhile, my title at my career is literally a creative, which is a right brain. However, I love diving into numbers and spreadsheets and everything, and just really analytical in that regard. And as much as like they say creative in agency world, there still is a matter of like the analysis and strategy. Like you have a strategy team who's just running all this data that feeds into what you're going to do creatively. So it's the same thing. It's really just in a different, it's just a pivot into a different industry. So how do I balance it? Sometimes one rules out the other, honestly. It's kind of an intuitive process. um so yeah, like they're at times a struggle between the two, where I'm like, one more scenario, let me run this again, or where it's like, no, but I know this is an opportunity, and like intuitively, like I can't really explain it sometimes until the numbers are there. But it's the inner turmoil that I have. But you know
At, at what point does the right side beat out the left side and goes, "That's enough numbers. Stop it. We're gonna go this way." Like, what? Like, is it a week, 2 months? Like, how long does it take before that right person goes, "Hey, stop it. Shut up."
Yeah, just do it. A lot quicker these days, honestly. 5 4 3 2 1, decide, right?
Mm.
And just make the decision and follow through with it. And that was also something in my everyday world, in my 9 to 5. Sometimes we don't see like that's why I'm all about transparency, right? Sometimes you don't see the decisions that are being made and the reasons they're being made. You're like, that doesn't seem like a great decision to do this, restructuring in this regard, and then everyone kind of gets, little dissonance in the team, but you don't see the bigger picture until you understand the bigger picture. So when I'm working with anyone, even if it was in my previous career or in real estate, like I like to explain kind of like, all right, so this is why we're going to pivot to this, here's the reasons why, and just get people on board. Because like otherwise, if they don't understand why they're doing something, what the reason is behind it, then you're going to get less performance in that regard.
Mm. No, you talked about having the support around you, the mentors, the coaches. Why is it that a coach is so important for you to be successful in what you're doing. Because, for instance, if there's an example that you share where if it wasn't for the coach or the mentor being there, it could have gone completely the other way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, coaches are just like critical to success, honestly. I come from a background of sports, like I'd mentioned to you, and like we always had a coach and we always had a leader there. And it's really what pushes you to excel when, you just need a little nudge, or if you have a decision to make and it's like, you're kind of on a sword, you're not sure which way to go. The more experienced mentor and coach will help give you guidance into which, way that you should potentially go based on what your circumstances is. So it cuts down in the time that you can't do it all. You need someone who's more experienced. So it cuts down in that time and makes you more successful quicker, really. And also being coached helps you learn to coach others as well. So, I have a guy that's trying to get into wholesaling. So he's been shadowing me a little bit and I've been kind of helping guide him along. And because again, I've been through that, so I'm able to help him. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's you can't even explain how important coaching is to your success.
Was there an incident where you go, wow, thank God I have this coach, because if I didn't listen to this person, this would have happened? Like for myself, my first eviction was completely something that I did not want to even think about. And I was messaging my coach over, like we have messages over and over again. In the end, he goes, stop it. They can sue you all they want. It's not going to happen. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there was one. Yeah, there was a instance where, I could have gone full eviction where I was guided to say, hey, potentially just say, you know, look, my coach and mentor, my attorney is telling me to go through eviction. I don't want to do that. Do you? No. Just giving you the script where it's like, instead of, you know, just dropping the hammer on the legal. So I was just like, I'll give you, we can do an agreement to vacate. I'll give you 60 days. You can find a new place, this, that, the other thing. So it's in the negotiation where I didn't even know that was potentially an option. You know what I mean? So just opens your eyes to certain things. And then once that path is open to you, for that example, now I apply the similar learning to other instances, if you will, right? Where you don't have to go just what, the law says or whatever it is, like, with the worst case scenario as far as eviction, but you try to find that, reasonable balance between what, works for both parties.
Mm-hmm. Now, in the real estate space, emotions is a big thing. Sometimes you're so in love with the project that you don't want to see it fail. Sometimes you are so connected with that tenant and you feel for that tenant, you don't want to kick them out, and therefore you might, we'll give them another chance. We'll give them another chance. How do you determine where that line stops, where emotion versus the numbers just don't match anymore, and you have to put your foot down? And what's that process that goes through your head that makes you go, okay, this is what we're going to do, whether it hurts or not?
Yeah, I think there's two things. I think having a partner that you work with that does have that balance to your right brain, you need the left brain.
A good come back up.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Or if you're doing solo, I think as far as with tenant management, I think you just got to do tough love, So, hey, this is you've got to explain, like, this is why this is an issue. Here's your opportunity to remediate, and if it happens again, we're gonna have to, take action. Is that fair? And you get, like, people on board and yes, yes, nodding. And then if and when that does happen again, you're like, hey man, we talked about this, we agreed to this. We're gonna have to go this route. We both talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a sense of tough love as far as tenants go. As far as the numbers go, you just got to be able to pivot quickly, honestly. If something's not going the direction, you need to find a solution. And like, I'm usually really good at seeing a few steps ahead and seeing what challenges might arise and kind of managing those ahead of time, which is part of, just being a goalkeeper, a soccer goalkeeper. That's what we do, right? That's what I played in college. And you can see the play like 6 steps ahead. Like, I know it's going to get over here, they're going to come down the line, it's going to cross it, someone's going to come in the other side. So you're always kind of like managing these positions, and that's not any different than strategy in business.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a matter of seeing what's coming down the pike. If you implement these solutions you've brainstormed around and you're seeing some kind of a challenge, I mean, obviously you're going to go to your coaches, but you need to find a different solution.
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost, you've got to protect the funding, right?
You brought up the soccer. You played at a very high level, and the thing is, do you find that sports and being in a team environment supports or helps you with your entrepreneurship and helps you in your business aspect, because I think it's vital, that teamwork and all that kind of stuff. But because of being in that competitive range, how's that transition for you? Like, did you find, oh, when I'm doing this, it feels like I'm playing on a team right now, or when I'm facing this challenge, it looks like I'm standing there in front of a shootout kind of situation. Do you relive those moments when you're faced with tough situations?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember one training drill where I don't know if you remember Tony DeChico. He coached the women's, national team, and it was one of his camps, and he was there, and they're like tossing the balls up, and in a certain degree where I'm like, there's no way I could save that. Like I'm like, and then they're like, well, just try, no matter what, even if you don't think you can, just do it. And I did, and I saved like 8 out of 10, I want to say, statistically, of these shots, and it was just like blown away, like wow. And it was more of a mental thing that was like, I knew that I had this incredible ability as a goalkeeper and athlete, but this was another level. This was a mental thing. So if I do run into any kind of challenges that are like that, I just kind of channel that back through and just be like, look, you got this. And it's almost like just regrouping, focus, use all your muscle memory, all the training you've got, and then make the decision based on that, right? As far as teamwork goes, though, yeah, it's completely important. In my agency world, we have a cross-functional team, so everybody kind of works with each other, and you got to become this holistic and synergistic team that just becomes one unit, similar to soccer or even like track as a team sport. I did track as well, and you're all competing together for one goal, even though they're individual sports. I mean, golf. I play golf as well. It's a very individual sport, but there's still like some kind of like team essence to it, in that even though you're playing with competitors and stuff, but it just kind of feels like you're not completely solo because you have your coaches and your mentors as well.
Mm.
um so I think, as far as something like that, I think it was critical to my path, to be honest. Being trained on a team with the integrity and mentality and just commitment that you're always giving 110% every single time, like that just ingrained in your body. You know what I mean?
Right. You talked about the aspect of building an environment of being able to negotiate and sit down with people to rework things out. Is that a skill set that you've always kind of had? Like, for instance, when you're sitting down with a tenant and you're facing a difficult situation or a conversation, you have to be able to understand, listen, and all that kind of stuff, but still get your point across. Same with when you're negotiating deals. That requires some skill set when it comes to communicating. Was communicating something that you went in and really focused on? And what should people do if communication is not a very strong asset for them?
Yeah, it hadn't always been for me. There was always some kind of anxiety around conflict for me, a lot, in general, and not knowing how to, really handle that. And I think just by doing and by practice and by successes or failures and learning from those is how you just kind of navigate through it. But yeah, having just coaches or others who have gone through it and just kind of bouncing things off people, I think will help you to kind of give the direction, your own style. Like everybody has their own management style as well. There's a lot of resources online or books you could talk to, to try to build those skill sets up. But I mean, what my advice to others would be is just do it.
Throw yourself into the fire and
Yeah.
make those first phone calls. I remember the first time I was trying to find the right lawyer for my team, and I was even scared to even call a lawyer. I'm like, what do I say? What if they say no? I'm like, oh, geez, this sounds so ridiculous now. But anyways, even calling a lawyer was hard. And in retrospect, I'm like, they want me to call them.
Yeah, exactly.
In real estate, one of the main reasons why lots of people stay away from real estate is because of all those horror stories. People hear it all the time. That's because those are the stories that people share. Waking up 4 a.m. in the morning to fix a toilet, waking up to somebody giving you a call that says they jumped out of the building or something. But all in all, when you're looking at your whole portfolio, your experience, how many of those incidents are there? Like, is it 5%, 10%, 20%? What are we actually looking at? And you're actually benefiting from the other remaining other stories, which are great.
Right. There's not as many as there are rewards, I'll tell you that much. I mean, it's in any career path, you're gonna have challenges, you're gonna have frustrating moments. I feel in real estate, like, I don't know, maybe maybe 10% on the buy and hold side. You know, depending on what systems you put in place, you know, fix and flip could be a little more. There's a lot more moving parts. You know, but it's worth it. It's worth it regardless. You hear the horror stories. People always want to focus on the drama, right? And not so much the inspirational stories, but I'll tell you what, like the pros outweigh the cons 100 times over.
Mhm. No, we heard your horror story, one of them. Is there a creative solution story that you're like, wow, I'm so proud of it, and it was one of the best deals that you've ever done?
Oh man.
So many to choose from, I know.
What's that? Uh, well, let's see. There was a recent flip that we did that I think was so successful towards the end was because of changing and pivoting and as you're going through stuff. And I think that that's just like so important because you can do all the concepting and brainstorming and planning that you want up front. And until you're in it and there's challenges that come up, then you know what you're really made of. Like that's kind of where, you know, people are made or broken, I want to say. And you have to just stay committed and determined and focused and being able to like pivot in those moments to what the strategy is and you know still seeing the end goal but you know in between on your journey. I think you know that's imperative to be able to do that because you know you can be caught like a deer in headlights and just get run over or you can just you know find a way to step out of the way and what's the other path, right?
When you transitioned over fully to working on real estate and away from the marketing and advertising side, now you're marketing and advertising for yourself, your own company. How did that feel when you became your own client?
Cobbler's kids have no shoes, as they say. Well, it's kind of hard to step outside of yourself, right? To see exactly, to observe. So going through the same processes that we would in marketing and advertising and just putting down your pillars and your brand essence and everything and just kind of really you know, breaking that out is what you got to do anyway, right? You just go through the same process. It's a little harder, honestly, because with the clients, like you know what their data is, you know what their and even though you are the closest person to yourself, like we are kind of the farthest people from ourselves in some regards as well, if that makes sense.
Do you sit across the table from a mirror and just kind of go, I'm going to say this, but I know I'm going to reply with, so never, you kind of go back and forth. Like you've worked with some of the biggest companies out there in that creative space. What are some of the biggest reasons why those Fortune 500 companies don't succeed in their marketing or their advertising?
Hmm. They don't follow uh, their KPIs,
Mhm.
right? They don't read the data properly. They kind of go rogue on strategy, and they don't know their client, their consumer. They don't
Mhm.
know their target market. So knowing your target market, being able to track your data and your KPIs and pivoting accordingly, that's very important.
Mhm.
Always a strategy. There's a business strategy and a marketing strategy, and those funnel and channel into you know each other. So and all these companies like they do test market projects and stuff like that to see if things work. So you know that's another thing you could learn a lot from you know Fortune 500 companies.
When it comes to time, like you were doing all this stuff with renovations, still working full time, then you're doing fixings and flips, you're still learning, you're reading and all that kind of stuff. How did you get that time balance so that you're able to do all that stuff and still stay awake? Like what's what's your like some of the stuff that you read, like I've read some real estate stuff, they're pretty dry when it comes to the legalities of it, right? So how do you stay awake, excited, and still being able to function at all your other tasks? Because that's not easy for a lot of people. So
Yeah.
what's your daily ritual? What do you wake up to? How do you stay positive? How do you do all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, exactly. It's tough, but having a system in place is great, right? So I'll wake up and I'll do a little bit of meditation and visualization, and then I'll jump right into just kind of brainstorming and around stuff like that before I even try to like pick up a phone or anything digital. But then I'll go through my top five. I have a list of top five I do every day, and then start to kind of create a plan around that. You know, blocking things off, trying to block everything off in half-hour increments.
Mhm.
Make sure that there's offers that are being in there, deals being evaluated, you know, personal development. And then at the end of the day, I always kind of say, hey, what are the two things that are good that happened today? Just so you kind of recapture what, you know, you're always kind of ending on a positive, you know, or some kind of even something that you could have done better, just reflecting on the day. And then, then I create my plan for the next day as well.
Mhm.
When I was working full time, let me tell you, I would work full time and then I would leave that parking lot and go to whatever it is, the training or a meeting or the renovation house that I was working on and do that for hours. And I was also balancing the relationship. So that was put a strain on things too. So I mean, you've got to pick what you're going to focus your time on and when you're going to focus your time on. And sometimes we don't make the right choices. Sometimes we do, right?
And you still have time to find to spend with doing fun stuff. You still
I
have
try to
time
get
to do
that.
your
Yeah.
your sports and whatnot. So that's incredible. Now when it comes to working in the renovations realm, is there a certain number that you kind of go, okay, if it's exceeding this much renovations, I'm not going to do that project, or is it a percentage thing for a deal that you go, okay, if it exceeds this percentage, I'm not going to do this buy, fix, and flip. It's a different strategy. How do you go about that?
Yeah, right now I'm kind of staying away from larger, like anything that needs like foundation, like large foundation work or like water redirecting. Some of the older homes, there's a lot of older homes here in New England. I'm in Connecticut. So there's just so many homes that are 100 years old. Those that are not that have not been renovated or gutted yet, I am trying to stay away from those and just work, focus mainly on more recent properties or ones that have already had some type of renovation in them. So
I see. You mentioned in your segment about how do you keep that positivity, how do you keep that mindset going. You talked about visualization. So what are you visualizing now? What's coming up for you? What's big? What are you expecting? What are you seeing in the next few days, months, years that you're very excited about?
well, I mean, just keep visualizing kind of the place that you want to be in, right? So you visualize that goal that you set for yourself, and you start there, and then you kind of go through like how everything looks, and just see yourself. You're kind of channeling yourself into yourself, so that you're putting your mindset there. What it looks like for me is building up more of my portfolio, putting more cash in the bank to be able to jump on bigger opportunities, and also learning new skill sets. So just always kind of focusing on that. And in addition to, the visualization and meditation, like I'm listening to audiobooks, and that's like any time that I'm driving or, doing some gardening. So I'm doing both at the same time, any of my hobbies. And I usually listen to those on like 1.5 or 2 times speed. So I can kind of, absorb, but then, I'll go back to I'll bookmark certain spots and, kind of sit down and study those. So.
Now, as you're going towards your goals, you're reaching the stuff that you visualize, things happen. COVID hit a few years ago, changes everything. Your renovation doesn't go according to plan. You have to re-strategize. How do you overcome those situations where you go, okay, how am I going to pivot? Because you said pivot a few times today. How did you maneuver around the whole COVID situation? How did you maneuver over things that don't go your way? What's that mindset like?
I think it's information absorption. I think once you're in that position, you got there because there's a lack of some type of information or you missed something.
Mm.
So you've got to go throw yourself into research. That's what I do. I'll kind of go through and just research. I'll just do a deep dive myself into, why this could have happened. What are the options? Like, what can I do in this market if it's that? Find, people who are doing things in that market and where's the opportunity? Because right in any market, there's an opportunity. It's just a different, skill set that you've got to learn or pivot to. So yeah, I mean, I think that's really it.
Mhm. Now, just when you go, okay, I know I'm going to do it, I'm going to pivot and do this, and that, then the naysayer starts coming. It's like, see, I told you it's not going to work. I told you it's going to have a problem. How do you manage them? Sometimes they're family members.
Yeah, I mean, I always try to inform and teach in that regard, but sometimes, it's not. Then I just let it roll off my shoulders. You
Mhm.
know, it's
So,
tough.
so having said that, your biggest inspirational talk to people who are still on the fence about real estate investing, what would you say to them?
Well, you could still be on the fence today, or you could still be on the fence in 10 years, and property values are still going up. So, I mean,
You're
and with
stuck in the
anything,
middle.
with anything, just, give it, make sure you have it, you're informed and you've got support, you've got someone to help guide you and just do it. Give yourself a time limit. If you're on the fence, be like, hey, okay, I'm going to do my first deal within the next 8 months, 12 months. Here's how I'm going to get there and to do this. And if you don't get there and it's not right for you, it's not the fit, it's a different path, go a different path, but set some kind of a criteria and a goal and objective to get there. Otherwise, you're just going to be sitting on the fence for 10 years.
Very, very strong comments. Very good. For people who are looking for life advice, let's say, how to become successful for yourself. Let's say we put you on the world stage and you have a couple minutes to give a message to everybody to live by, to remember Carlin for. What are those words of inspiration that you can share with the world?
I'd say if you can go to bed at night and put your head down on the pillow, knowing that you did the best that you can and you were true to your values, then I think, you know, you're doing the right thing. I would say success has sacrifice to it, and it's a matter of how much you want to work and sacrifice for. There will be pain through it, as there is with anything. But where there's pain, there's growth. Where there's challenges and you feel uncomfortable is right when you're about to push through and grow. So look at it like an aura in a way. If here's where I feel the pain, you know, when I push through it, then now I have this much more essence, and then this much more, and it keeps growing. And the further you push through your uncomfortableness, the more you're going to grow. And then you kind of check it off the list. Like, okay, I'm not uncomfortable about that anymore. Like picking up the phone and talking to the attorneys, right? And once you get through that and just push yourself, right? Everybody's seen that silly little infographic of the guy who, you know, just gave up shoveling like right before he gets to his goal. I mean, we don't know where that's going to be or if that's the goal that we're going to hit, you know, but we're going to hit some kind of a goal, right? So if you have, you know, somewhere you want to go in life, like just push through and just be uncomfortable and live in the uncomfortable.
Awesome. Great words to live by. That concludes our formal portion of the interview. Thank you very much for that. You shared a lot of great tips and added lots of value to our listeners here. But I got a few more questions for you. Rapid fire. Give me the first thing that comes to mind.
All right.
You're stranded on the deserted island. One food to eat for the rest of your life. No consequence.
Ooh, probably my mom's pasta sauce with pasta and meatballs.
Hasbro calls and goes, "Hey, we love your story. We love everything you do. We want to do a Monopoly game based on you, Carlinopoly." What would you say are the tokens that you use to play? Pick 5 things that represents you the most.
Oh, that's fun. Wow. That's a tough one, actually. How do you, okay, let's see. Maybe a puppy, a dragon, a soccer ball, a
More.
hammer. That's 4.
A hammer. Okay.
You're talking to someone. This is where the conflict comes in. The left brain and the right brain. Hey, which way am I going? And these are all, and maybe hot air balloon. Hot air balloon is the last one.
Awesome. Hollywood calls and says, "Hey, we love your story. We know Monopoly is coming out with your game, but we also want to make a biopic on you. Who would you like to play you?"
Ooh, well, what about like Angelina Jolie? You know, she's got the appeal, but she's also badass.
Awesome. Angelina Jolie shows up your door and goes, "Hey, I got casted to play you on your biopic. Let's hang out. Show me a great time." So what is your definition of a great time that you would spend with Angelina Jolie? And then at the end, to top it off, you cook her a special dinner. What would that be?
Oh man. Well, the great time. Well, we'd have to start with a conversation to see what, you know, she feels is a great time. You know, we can kind of bop around and do some things. As far as a meal that I would cook, I don't know. I do like to go saltwater fishing. I go out here on the sound and I like to catch striped bass. So maybe I'd bring one of those guys in and, you know, cook it right over the fire, just outside with some other things.
Awesome. Great. Sounds great. Number from 1 to 4.
2.
1, 2. So if you had to compare success to a smartwatch, how is success like a smartwatch?
Success is like a smartwatch in that your choices in tools and strategies help determine your success. And whatever programs you load into that tool will help you determine how efficient you will be.
Nicely done. So that's how success is, like a smartwatch. And normally I end it there, but I have one more question because you mentioned you're a goaltender for soccer. Have you read the book Freakonomics by any chance?
Oh, it's on my list. I
Okay,
have.
so one of the chapters in there talks about statistics and numbers and how goalkeepers decide which way to go in a shootout. And because you can't react fast enough based on what you see, you basically guess. And because based on the statistics, most players have a strong right foot, and therefore the ball will usually get kicked to the left side, and therefore the goaltender will jump to the left side. Is that true?
Depends what team you're playing. Depends
Ah.
how strong. If it's a more elite team, I would anticipate the right foot, righty would go to the right and down.
Ah.
My left and down. So, it's kind of through observation.
So you're sharing secrets now.
Yeah, I'm a shorter goalkeeper, so that was a lot of good players would try to go high for me, go up. So and I had really good ups, so I would usually stay up and not down. Taller goalkeepers, you want to go lower because it takes them longer to get down there. So
Awesome. Sounds cool.
left brain, that's a left brain.
Lots of numbers there. Thank you very much for your time. That was a lot of fun. Is there anything you want to share, last words? And then also, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Yeah, a best way to get in touch with me is on Instagram. You can find me pretty easily, CARLIN GUARNERI. And as far as last things to say, like just whatever you're doing, stay true to yourself and make sure you're staying true to your values and what's important to you. You know, you can go through this business and be successful, and you don't have to lose sight of who you are. So
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you very much. Make sure everybody out there, make sure you connect with our Carlin. She has lots of great information, lots of great knowledge in real estate, somebody you should definitely connect with. And I had a lot of fun. Thank you very much for your time. And until next time, everybody, today is the day to log your peak potential. We'll see you next time.
thank you.